Welcome to the We Are VIP podcast. Each week, your host, Casey Hasten, Director of Recruiting at VIP, will bring you valuable insights from thought leaders, introduce you to incredible companies, and bring you tips for landing your dream job from our team of executive recruiters at VIP. And now, Casey Hasten.
Welcome to the We Are VIP podcast, a podcast devoted to adding value to your career or candidate search, brought to you by VIP. I'm your host, Casey Hasten. I'm an executive recruiter, director of recruiting with VIP, and your all-around hiring guru. And you know, I am so fortunate that for almost 5 years now, I've had the opportunity to talk with so many thought leaders, so many influencers, and so many people out there that just have that go-giver mentality that want to help you collapse that timeline to success. And today is no different. So I'd like to welcome Jason Hauer, CEO of HauerX Holdings and Courageous Minds Only. Cannot wait to dig into that. Jason is a highly sought after speaker, panel moderator, and thought leader in entrepreneurship, courageous leadership, and disruptive brand growth, having conducted interviews with over 100 influential brand figures. With his dynamic presence and innovative insights, he continues to inspire leaders to operate courageously as they thrive in disruption across industries. Thanks for joining us today, Jason.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
You know, you are one of those connections that I just love to talk about because one of my favorite things that one of my mentors told me one time was to get your ask, you got to pronunciate, ask in gear. And you are a perfect example of me getting my ask in gear, and now you're here with me on the show.
I love it. I'm glad to be here. Excited for the conversation.
Yeah, so, and I just want to kind of give some color and some flavor to that. So I actually saw you on another podcast called Learn It, put on by Damon Limby's company. Damon, who's been a guest on the show, fabulous guy. But I saw you on that podcast and I was just like, oh my gosh, he needs to come talk to my audience too.
Yeah, Damon's phenomenal. He's super inspiring with his Learn It All Leader book and his message, and a lot of synergy between how he thinks about like leadership development and I do as well. So honor and privilege to be here.
You know, so I'm just going to call this out. This won't be in the show, but I'm a big believer in failing forward and wanting to make sure that people realize that this podcast is edited, and people see it and they think, oh my God, she does that all in the first take. And I'm like, no. So as we were starting, I had to start this intro like 3 times. And normally I'm pretty good about not having to do that. But what kept tripping me up is I wanted to talk about courageous minds only. And I kept trying to ad lib a little bit about it and talk about, can't wait to hear about that. And it just kept throwing me off because I was ad libbing in my intro. So let's just start there. Tell us about Courageous Minds Only and HauerX Holdings and what inspired you to create these.
Yeah. So HauerX Holdings, let me start with Courageous Minds Only. I started my career in IT leadership in the nonprofit space, and I even though I grew up very entrepreneurially, I don't know that I would consider myself a risk taker, and I feel like I waited a long time to have all the answers and have things figured out and thought through before I took risks, whether it's going to get my MBA in marketing or starting various companies. And I kind of, through reflection, I figured out like when I had an idea and I just pursued it, things opened up, life opened up, and I was able to open doors for myself and figure it out. And I think operating with a courageous minds only mentality is just that. It's being willing to bet on yourself and step into the unknown and trust that having an open hand and putting the right people and resources around you is ultimately what's going to enable your success. Not having a white knuckle grip control over things that you think might be in your control and they're not, right? And channeling that courageous minds only mentality, I started HauerX Holdings really with a mission of buying B2B technology, media, and services companies, and call it 5 to 20 year legacy businesses that had a really good foundation but are looking for the next level of growth, and applying that courageous minds only mentality to those businesses.
And I love that you said that. And it's almost like the universe is talking directly to me right now, because this is a message that's been coming to me over and over and over again lately, is that you don't necessarily have to have everything figured out, right? And you don't have to have it figured out
100%.
right now.
Yeah. I think the things that, like, when I think about it, the things that are in control, or at least my control, and I share this with other leaders, is you can reflect on like what you're passionate about, what you have conviction for, what you're committed to. But when things are changing, and they're as uncertain as they have been, regardless of like what industry you're in, just even thinking about something like AI, thinking about kind of the episodic downturn we've had that has hit just various industries. There's a lot that you can't control, right? And so I think the more that you're able to bet on yourself and have conviction for um, what you're passionate about, what you want to pursue, but then being open-minded to opportunities that are out there, whether to learn, grow, um, potentially step into a new role in a new industry that opens doors for you that you hadn't thought about before. There's power in that, but having kind of lived it before, of not willing, like having that white knuckle grip of control, or things I thought I could control, it really will paralyze you. And it's, I feel like it's a fear driven response. But the more that you're able to shed that for that courageous minds only mentality, I think it really is a powerful thing, both for creating opportunities, but also just I think it's a better way to live life.
Well, and I love what you said about being open to opportunities, because I think, and I can tell you a beautiful story, a very personal story right now. So, my son just recently started a business. He's in the audio production business. And, I'm a networker. I meet lots of people. And, when I start seeing connections, I'm like, let's make this connection, let's make this connection. And I just make introductions and I let them grow. Well, this particular introduction was for my son. And it was to a lady that was in the music industry that had some very, very high level connections. And after we were talking, she was like, I love what he's doing. Connect me to him. Let me see if I can help him. They jumped on a 3-hour call. And at the end of it, she's like, all right, I'm going to connect you to all these music labels, all these businesses. And he called me afterwards and he's like, he was shaken. He was overwhelmed. And he was
I
like,
love it.
Mom, I I don't even know what to think about all this. And I was like, you don't need to think. You just need to say yes. This is your dream. You have an opportunity in front of you. Say yes.
Yeah, I love it, because I know you're his mom, but it's also, I feel like when you have conviction for building something and stepping into something, whether it's a career, whether it's a business, whether it's just even a passion project you have, like, you pull resources and connections in right. And I think that's super powerful. But to me, it's just a great example of it. When you step into kind of operating with courage, you open doors for yourself. So that's awesome.
But you have to be brave enough to walk through that door, right? It's not enough just to open them. You got to walk through it.
Yeah, 100%. And like, had you made those connections for him and he hasn't started the business yet, then maybe he doesn't walk through the door. But because he took the first couple of steps, so to speak, and he was on that path, then he did, right? And I can think back to just different situations that I there's been doors that are maybe in front of me and I didn't even see them. But when you operate with conviction and saying, like, really telling yourself the process is what's actually going to develop and create the thing, create the opportunity, then just take that next step and then walk through that door, right? So that's.
So, what is one way that because I know a lot of people, they have like blinders on, right? And so they don't even see those doors. What is one thing that you do so that you do recognize those opportunities when they come before you?
I think it's just getting really clear on what you're trying to do and why. Like, um, I I feel like when I've either not had the courage to pursue connections or other opportunities, or have seen the opportunities that are right in front of my face. I feel like I haven't done the work to reflect, and or bring mentors or friends or colleagues into the conversation to even get clear on what I'm trying to do. But when I'm clear on, hey, this is a learning objective for me for this year, I want to learn more about AI, or I really I don't love the culture of the business I'm in right now, and I feel like I want to change, like having clarity on that and conviction for that, and writing it down, and just staying with it a little bit, then to me gives you both that conviction and the commitment and the urgency to pursue some of those things. But lack of clarity is really just gonna, is friction, in my opinion. And in some cases it's lack of clarity. In other cases it's fear can kind of creep up a little bit, and I think that's okay. But if you just flat out don't see opportunities that are in front of you, then to me it's lack of clarity. If you see the opportunities and you feel anxiousness setting in, that's okay. It's natural. But then I would say that's fear kicking in a little bit.
No,
But then when you start to act in spite of that fear, then that's where that's where you start to really make meaningful progress for yourself.
boy, there was a lot that you just said right there that I'd kind of like to unpack just a little bit of that, because number one, you said write it down. In order to get clarity, I think it always starts with writing it down. Well, let me back that up. I think it starts with getting calm, getting centered within yourself so that you can find that clarity. But then you need to write it down. So I'm curious, when you attack a goal, how do you, and I don't think there's any wrong or right way to, well, there is a right way to attack a goal, but I'm curious how you attack a goal. Let's say what is one of your goals for this year?
I'm in the process of closing a deal of buying a business for my holding company, HauerX Holdings. So closing a transaction and then building that business, is the goal.
And so to reach that goal, when you wrote it down, do you start with the big picture and work backwards? Or do you start with the little, what I call chunk items, and work towards the big goal? Because people do it differently.
I start with the deeper why it matters to me. I spend 80-90% on just the way I'm wired, is the deeper why, and then I'm more of a spatial, like macro thinker. So then I think in bigger frameworks. So I start there, but then in terms of actually execution on goals, it's the rest is really just what's the one or two things that I need to do on a daily basis to kind of hit my nail to achieve the goal, right?
Yep.
And it varies, right? But like for the most part, to me, when I haven't hit a goal or achieved it, it's there wasn't a strong enough connection to why it really, really mattered to me. And I spend a lot more time there. And then I feel like when you do that, the tactical stuff in terms of the like big chunks and then the smaller like micro tasks that are in service of the goal, I'm not saying it takes care of itself, but it's just easy. It's a lot easier to sustain. That's just kind of how I think about it.
It's very similar to my thought process, actually, because I do long term, short term, and then micro goals. And so like my short term goals support my long term goal, right? So these are like the bigger chunk items. And then the micro goals support the short terms. And so these are the daily tasks that I need to get done this chunk item to move forward to get to the overall goal.
100%. Yeah. And I do think it's interesting too, because I feel like we're with the way the world's changing with AI and work, like just there's so many things that are happening where I think what we're talking about is true when the context is clear and you know what the how is to achieve the goal. But I've been finding when I step into new context too, where maybe I need a completely new mental model, where I don't know how to do something, giving myself a little bit more breathing room on the front end of the process to connect with new people, to read new books or listen to new podcasts or interviews, and then use that to let it kind of shape what my plan potentially looks like, and even course correcting as I go. I think that's when you push yourself into new spaces, places, if you just execute and you don't do the first step of kind of resetting mental models and taking in new knowledge and experience or tapping into new mentors, then you're potentially not going to achieve your goal either, right?
Absolutely. And you've mentioned mentors a couple of times. And so I love that you value the practice of mentorship. And I hope that goes both ways for you, that you have a mentor and that you are a mentor, because that is so important. And, I work with a group of young executives, and that's one of the pillars that we offer to them is a mentorship program. And we're about to add coaching on top of that.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like I've had a lot of leaders that have had a really positive, mentors that have had a very positive impact on me. And I love paying it forward because it to me, it's not just me like giving. I get a lot out of like just connecting with the next generation, just in terms of how they think about technology and culture and other things too. So it's a two-way street. But the way I think about it is, Dr. Henry Cloud has this leadership model that is, if you have a just baseline level of competence and experience when you take a role or leadership role, whatever, what separates like great leaders from and managers versus what folks that don't do as well is, one is getting in the arena, two, operating as an open system to where you're open for feedback, but then it's really putting resources and people around you that have the courage to give you the right feedback in service of developing yourself and pushing yourself forward, right? And I've always operated with that mentality, but reading his book Integrity really kind of crystallized that for me. And that's how I look at mentorship: is you're able to shortcut somebody's 10,000 hours in terms of building themselves up as a leader, and there's so much richness in connecting with leaders, not just that are functional experts, but people that have actually done what you want to do. And I enjoy it as an important part of the process. It makes me a better leader, and I love the kind of pay it forward side of it too. I get a lot out of that personally.
I tell you, there's one of our young executives that I'm working with right now that, definitely, it's a mentor-mentee type relationship, but this guy is like a technology guru, and I'm like a technology not guru. And so,
Yeah.
I can mentor in the business space, but he's mentoring back on how to use all this new technology. Because, I am not an internet native, right? I didn't grow up with the internet, and there's so many things out there that I could use to further my business that I don't know how to use. And when I look at it, I'm like, I'm not doing that. And he's like, no, you just do this. And I'm like, oh, that's not so hard.
Yeah.
I can send a text message.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I love it. Yeah, man, and it's crazy too, of like with AI's impact both on like just businesses in general, but also I truly believe it's just going to have a dramatic impact on just about every role in business. And if you're around, whether it's somebody who's 50, 60, 70, or in their early 20s starting their career, and they understand it, like that's a game changer, because that can have a dramatic impact. And I think it's just a good way to operate as a leader, of when you're open to new ideas and perspectives. And I think it's just one of the benefits of it being a mentor and being willing to be vulnerable and connect with people. That's just kind of an important byproduct.
I love that. And I'm going to have to read that book, Integrity. That's one I've not read. It's not been on my radar, so I'm going to have to check that out. Let's go back to Courageous Minds Only, because so my understanding is this is a global community with a mission of giving corporate leaders courage, connections, inspiration for building the future in an uncertain world, which we're certainly in right now. What does courage mean in this context?
Yeah, so I think like if you think about like corporate leaders, like I feel like if I even think about when I started the Garage Group's innovation consulting company, I built and sold over the last decade or so. A lot of like corporate leaders and leaders in general like work to become the smartest person in the room and the most experienced, right?
Mm.
And in some ways that's good because you're mastering the existing business model. The downside, and it goes back to Darren's point in terms of the learn it all leader, is when you feel like you have it all figured out, then you're not as open to like pursuing new ideas and being curious and potentially changing business models and that sort of thing. And I feel like that's where we're at right now, is a global market, right? And so I think operating with courage or courageous minds only in the corporate context really is, you don't have it all figured out, but you're willing to step into things that you're curious about and experiment and encourage your team to experiment. But I also feel like there's the interpersonal side of clarity on like conviction for what you get excited about, what you're potentially fear driven about, et cetera, right? Because I think when you are able to connect your purpose in an authentic way with the organization and keeping it relevant and interesting, you not only you create like new innovation, new products, new ideas for the business, but you also like show your team how to do that, et cetera, right? And even for you of like having the courage to step out into like podcasting is a way to extend the network of your business. Like that's operating with courage, even from a culture current way of connecting with potential stakeholders, right? And so yeah, that to me is courage, is where you're willing to step in and extend the business and not necessarily be the smartest person, but you're willing to learn what it's going to take and actually step into what it's going to take to keep your business relevant and growing in the face of uncertainty, essentially.
And I think understanding that you don't have to be the smartest person in the room to have courage is important. I often know I'm not the smartest person in the room, nor do I care to be. But you know what? I surround myself with really smart people that can complete the teamwork. And I think doing that, and I'm just thinking of like my networking group that I run that's been going on for 35 years. I haven't been running it the whole time, so please don't add that to my age. But it's, but it is a very established group. And I am not the smartest person at running that organization, but I have a team around me that I cast the vision and they make it happen.
Yeah, like that to me is great leadership. And I would say when I think about the you're curious, learn it all leader versus somebody who has it all figured out, I would also call out like if you're trying to like bring AI into your business, for example, like nobody has it really figured out and you're experimenting, right? And from a management perspective, like that's how being curious and having the courage to experiment with that is how you actually solve uncertain challenges. And it's important to model that for your team because one, you're putting the right team around you, great team, and you're empowering them. But you're actually, if you have to wait till you have it all figured out or you have all the answers to bring AI into your business, it's not going to happen.
Exactly.
It's going to be a decade, right? And
yeah.
And so like, and to you, it's like gives you a lot of credit for having the team around you to empower them and to execute. And to me, there's a lot more to leadership than just having the answers to the strategy test or whatever you're trying to do, right?
I agree. I don't have to know how to do everything. I just have to have people around me that do. I have to know how to do everything, right? And plus, to your point, that was a really good point about, it would take me an extended amount of time to get up to date on AI, if ever. I'm so far behind that learning curve. So why would I do that? Why would I not push that down and not push it down, but push it to someone whose learning curve is going to be a lot shorter and can get us to the finish line a lot quicker? I mean, that just makes sense to me.
Absolutely. And then as your job as a leader is to pay attention to, okay, that was a great experiment. We had a huge productivity increase there, or we were able to take care of our customers better. Where else could we apply that in the business? And it's like you be the connector within the business of those ideas and those successes, right? And but to me, your job as a leader in that context is to create the context for that courageous thinking and the experimentation and maybe some guardrails in terms of what you can and can't do with like um, company IP or things that could get you in trouble, right? Make sure the kind of the rules are clear, but then let people experiment. Like I even encourage people to like start to use, like I use ChatGPT um, with like there's a sous chef GPT I've been using where you can take a picture of your pantry and fridge and then say, can you build my meal list for the week and let me know what I need to get from the grocery, and then I need all the recipes, and I don't like these ingredients, so can you sub them out? And but me using that gives me ideas for, okay, how can I apply that to our holding company? I think that's the other side of it too. Of like, as a leader, you to me have to be experimenting with this stuff personally so that you understand it. But it will give you ideas and insights for how you can apply it to your business.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to go off topic here for just a second. What is this app again? Is it an app or you just
So
putting it in a chat?
ChatGPT 4
Yeah,
or
I have that.
ChatGPT 3.5, and then then there's a sous chef GPT in that, and then you can and it's super interesting. Like, yeah,
Oh,
it's great.
I am going to go home and try
I
that
think
tonight.
you can do it in the normal chat window, but what I like about the sous chef one is they've trained it up a little bit more, so it's more like recipe and food specific.
Okay, okay. I'm definitely doing that tonight. So thank you for that. That was like the best little nugget ever because I'm always looking in there. I
Yeah.
have so much food in my pantry and I never have anything to eat, you know?
Oh yeah, it's great. Like it honestly it gave me like there's a few different recipes that it gave me just unique insights on of how to make just really cool dishes, and then even being aware of like what I could substitute for different ingredients, like being able to ask it to change on the fly. It's like it's interesting. But the macro point there is if you are because we're more of structural change happening right now where it's like there are new skills and new possibilities emerging, like as a leader, if you're not playing around and experimenting with it, whether it's with strategic planning tools or in your
Hmm.
own like personal life, you're not going to understand it. And the more that you can do that, I think it will empower you to understand like the possibilities of using the new technology in novel ways.
We are actually implementing a new technology right now and it is making my head explode. And so I just gave everybody access and I said, y'all figure it out. And once it's up and running, I'll come in and use it. So I can't. But it's great because that's
Yeah,
where that young executive comes in because he's coming in. He's migrating all the information into the new CRM and just taking over. And this is going to really solve a lot of our problems. So I need this to work. But exactly what you were saying. So I'm curious, what's next on your list of taking over the world?
I I look at things as like what am I doing every day to have an impact, right? And um, so I feel like the transaction probably will get closed mid March, and then I'll be able to talk more about publicly about the business. But then the way that I think about deals and businesses is like what am I doing to increase the enterprise value of the business, along with as transition the business forward of like the owner staying on and building a really great relationship with him and partnering up to continue to push the business forward, right? So and I'm big on like let's drive business results, but like let's do it in a way that's valuing of the founder and legacy, but then like let's push the business forward as well.
Mm, that is
I think
beautiful.
that's the biggest thing for me, for the most part, and then really just continuing. I feel like the one of the big things that I have thought a lot about, and it's like it's my mission for HauerX Holdings is igniting serial growth. And it's just this idea of like an entrepreneurship, but also just innovation and leadership in general. Like I feel like for whatever reason, we're pushing for the exit, we're pushing for the promotion, and just really getting leaders and entrepreneurs to think about like just growth in building businesses and careers and all that is like an ongoing learning journey. And even for your son, like going back to that example, like maybe success for him is building it to a couple of mil top line and then selling it. He's built some valuable skills, but then he's able to then parlay that into some investments and then starting another business. And it doesn't have to be like a 10 or $100 million exit, that right? Or thinking about leaders that get frustrated in their path, and it's like, I want that promotion, I want that role, but it's like, no, like what are you doing to challenge yourself to learn and grow today, this week, this month, this year? And so just continuing to put more thought leadership out around like just igniting serial growth and really kind of figuring out like what that's going to look like as I go forward.
Well, I think that's beautiful. And I love that you brought my son back into it. Number one, he's my son. I'm very proud of him. But he is, and I will share just one more little quick fact that I think you'll appreciate, because he is already learning to delegate. And I mean, like, he is just this first business. He's still in college. It's just that he has such a passion for music and had such the opportunity to go ahead and launch a side hustle that he did. And so he went and talked to the school and got 2 interns to help him with his business. And I was like, that is so smart.
Yeah. Oh, it totally is. Because then he's able to have more leverage in the business and can continue to have an impact, right? So that's invaluable for sure.
Yeah. So, okay, well, now I want to get onto our VIP questions, and I want you to think a little bit outside the box, okay?
All right.
So if you were chosen to be one of the first colonists on Mars, what 3 things or people would you take with you?
That's a good one. That's making me think. So I just finished Elon Musk's
of course you
biography.
did. That was really good, wasn't it?
It was. So he would definitely be on the list just because he's got that he's got the vision to go there, but then he just figures shit out, like, and he's a problem solver. So definitely Elon. And then I forget the movie, but Matt Damon's character in the movie where he got left on Mars, he was a botanist.
Yes. What was that movie?
I feel like that would be a hugely helpful like skill set to have. And then I toyed around with like a bunch of different possibilities, and I think where I'm landing is like a next generation 3D printer that can literally print anything. So
that's whether a good
it's
idea.
Like we need food, we need parts for building out like infrastructure, we need a part for an oxygen tank, solar panel for energy, anything. It literally can print anything. So Elon Musk, a botanist, and the next generation 3D printer that can literally replicate humanity.
That is pretty smart. I approve of your list.
All right, I love it.
So what's the one thing you do each morning to set your day up for success?
I'm big with just like fitness and eating healthy, but just fitness in general. And so like I work out twice a day, and like in the morning I do my cardio, afternoon weights, but just morning cardio fasted is like the thing that I do. I don't go hard at all. Like I'm like elliptical or running or Stairmaster, but it's like 30 minutes of just kind of get my my head right for the day and body right. And I focus on just what are my bigger goals that I'm trying to accomplish. And I do that most mornings, and it's just a good way to start the day.
Absolutely. A body in motion, right?
Absolutely.
All right. My final question for you. If your life's work was being summarized in a news article, what would the headline be?
Yeah. I think like I shared before, igniting serial growth. Because I feel like that's what I'm about, is constant improvement and trying to kind of push to the next level. And it's I love the process of that. So whether it's nutrition, working out, building companies, investing, um, it's thinking about where like I can inspire and enable serial growth. Um, and it definitely comes from like personal passion for me, but then when I notice like when I have mentor conversations or I'm building a company where I look for opportunities, it's like where can I drive growth? What are the levers I can pull? And that's really what drives me.
Perfect. How do people find you?
Yeah, just find me on LinkedIn. So Jason Hauer, Hauer, and just look for the beard.
I love the branding that goes along with that, your message and everything. And I will say to those of you that might want to reach out to him, he's very responsive on LinkedIn. That's how I originally got connected with him, and the response was almost immediate. I'm not promising immediate responses for you, not holding you to that, but I do know he's very active on LinkedIn. So make sure you go and find him there and just connect with him and see, follow his work and see how he might help you become a courageous leader too. So this has been an amazing conversation, Jason, and I just have one last thing to say to you. You are a VIP.
Thanks for having me, Casey. I really appreciate it, and look forward to staying in touch and figuring out how we can help each other out. So I appreciate you.
And that's a wrap for today. Join us next week here on the We Are VIP podcast. We'd love to know how we can help you be a VIP. To find out more, log on to wearevip.com.